1894 to 1969, and I would request that people, if they can stop talking to each other, okay, it's distracting. Uh, Excuse me. Baba always maintained silence, so I hope all of you will maintain silence and listen with 100% focus. And so I will let Usha just give that introduction that I just gave, if you remember.
బాబా ఆయన చెప్తారండి. బాబా డైరెక్టర్, మన అందరూ యాక్టర్సే అండ్ మనం డైరెక్టర్ సార్ మనం ఎప్పుడు అనుకోకూడదని చెప్తారండి. మనం ఏమనుకుంటాం, మనం ప్లాన్ చేస్తాం అనుకుంటాం, కానీ చాలా క్లారిటీ ఇచ్చారు బాబా. ఈయన ముందు బాబాయే డైరెక్టర్, ఇవన్నీ యాక్టర్స్ అంతా బాబావే, దర్శకత్వం వహించేది బాబావే. మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే బాబా చెప్పిన ప్రకారం యాక్ట్ చేస్తున్నట్టే యాక్టర్స్ మాత్రమే అంటున్నారండి అని చెప్తూ ఆయన బాబా ఉన్నటువంటి ఎక్స్పీరియన్సెస్ అన్ని చెప్తున్నాము. మీరు దయచేసి బాగా కాన్సన్ట్రేట్ చేసి ఫోకస్ చేసి వినండి, కానీ మాట్లాడి నన్ను డిస్టర్బ్ చేయకండి అంటారు.
So we understand that Avatar Meher Baba born in 1894 and he dropped his body in 1969, and there have been many avatars. So many people ask us this question: who is the avatar? Who is Meher Baba? Why should we believe that Meher Baba is the avatar? And so on and so forth. So there are many different answers, but what I would like to mention is my own experience of how Baba came into my life. And the important aspect about Avatar Meher Baba is, just like in our material life, what we call as Bhautik Jeevan, as a child, our parents are our mentor at home. At school, it's our teacher. In college, it is our professor. And when you work in a company, it is your boss. Similarly, Meher Baba is a mentor, a universal mentor, not only for our material life, but also for our spiritual life.
ఆయన చెప్తున్నారండి, బాబా 1894లోని బాబా జన్మించారు. అయితే బాబా అలాగే చాలామంది అవతారాలు కూడా వచ్చి ఉన్నారు. అయితే బాబాయే అవతారుడు అనడానికి ఏమిటి కారణం అంటే ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒక్కొక్క రకంగా చెప్తారు. బాబానే ఎందుకు మనం విశ్వసించాలి, ఆయనే ఎందుకు అవతారుడు అంటే చాలామంది చాలా రకాలుగా చెప్తారు. కానీ నా కారణం నాకు ఉంది అని చెప్తూ మనకి ఇంట్లో పేరెంట్స్ స్కూల్కి వెళ్ళకముందే పేరెంట్స్ మనం మౌల్డ్ చేస్తారు, మనం ఎలా ఉన్నా తీర్చిదిద్దుతారు. తర్వాత స్కూల్లో టీచర్స్.
So, okay, let's start again. Before we do any project in life, whether it is in our personal life or professional life, in different stages of life, whether you are a brahmachari, grahasthi, vanaprastha, sannyas, you ask what I call the 7 questions, because 7 is a divine number. First we ask, who is the subject? So we are asking, who is Meher Baba? Then we ask, what is the objective? What is Meher Baba? Why are we speaking about Meher Baba? And how do we unite with Meher Baba? When and where? Which in physics we know is space and time. When do we want to unite with Meher Baba? And where we would like to unite with Meher Baba? And the 7th question is, which way should I go? Now the 7th question, which way, means each person has unique sanskaras, unique fingerprint. So our process to approach Meher Baba is very unique. So the analogy I will use is that before you play any game, a physical game like basketball, baseball, cricket, or if you play a mental game like chess, poker, bridge, first you have to know the rules of the game, which is called right knowledge, 1%. Without knowing the rules of the game, you can't play the game. But after mastering the rules of the game, you have to practice. So take the analogy of cricket. because that is the most famous sport in India. In the US, it's basketball, baseball, American football. In Europe, it is soccer. So the analogy out here is, before you play a game, you have to know the 100% rules of the game. After you know the 100% rules of the game, which every player has to follow, each player will practice, and they will play their own unique game. So what is the connection with Meher Baba? Today we live in the 21st century. Meher Baba, we understand as Meher Baba lovers that either through pure love or through pure conviction through the intellect, we have accepted Meher Baba as the avatar. Now the next question is, how do you use Meher Baba's messages? So Meher Baba has given many messages through God Speaks, through discourses, through the 7 realities, through My Wish, 12 ways of realizing me, how to love God, the Hafiz sayings, the 7 Sahabat sayings, the Parvartikar prayer, repentance prayer, and the beloved prayer. So we have many messages from Baba, which I call as a checklist for all Baba lovers to follow in their day-to-day practical life. So the question is, how to love Baba? Because everybody says that we are Baba lovers, but what does it mean to love Baba? Now, who is Baba first of all? So Baba, as an avatar, he has come into our midst after Prophet Muhammad, 1400 years later, as Avatar Meher Baba. Before that he was Muhammad. Before that he was Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Rama, Zoroaster, etc. And also we know that Meher Baba has mentioned there have been millions of avatars, crores of avatars before him and after him. Because the whole universe, what we call as God or existence, is infinite, eternal, and one. Now, let's try to understand what is the meaning of avatar. Now, if I ask you to write your answer now, and later when we compare our notes, each one of us will have our own understanding of what avatar is. So let me try to explain my understanding of avatar based on reading God Speaks and the supplement called Beams. Now everybody knows that avatar is God in human form. Avatar is not God, avatar is God in human form. But before we say avatar is God in human form, we have to first define, based on the book Beams, avatar is the first drop soul Atma, Jivatma, Manavatma, who became God realized after going through the animal kingdom and when the Jivatmas became Manavatmas in the human kingdom. So let's say when there were 100,000 or 1 lakh human beings who evolved from the animal kingdom, the so-called apes, gorillas, orangutans or chimpanzees, who have 99% similar DNA to human beings. So the first human being, okay, let me go back here. The first 100,000 human beings initially were cavemen. They were basically hunter-gatherers. They ate animals. They were not vegetarians. They lived in caves. After that, they found fire. We became agriculturists. And after that, we became kings and pharaohs. We had all the material goods in life. But then suddenly, that particular human being or number of human beings asked this question, who am I? My own who? Naan ya. I don't know what you say in Telugu. Who am I? Yeah. Because this question, who am I, is the most important question that every human being has to ask once you are born and once you become an adult. Because there is only one real question in life you have to ask as a human being: who am I? But before answering this question, and Baba has given the answer, and many of the prophets and many of the Sadgurus have answered this question. We are all Buddhas, walking Buddhas. Like Buddha said, we are all walking Buddhas. Before me, thousands of Buddhas. After me, thousands of Buddhas. Baba has given the meaning of avatar, where the first human being who became God realized or self realized without the help of a physical human form, perfect master or Sadguru. Because the first human being did not have a guide. So, how did the first human being become God realized? He became God realized by the eternal avataric infinite consciousness. Now, what does the eternal avataric infinite consciousness mean? When Baba said, when God in his unconscious Paratma Parabrahma state, which is called the most original beyond God state, when he woke up, the first question that came to him was, who am I? And that created the first samskaric impression. Now, to experience that first samskaric impression, the consciousness has to take a form. In beams, it is clearly mentioned that when who am I started, two things happen simultaneously and spontaneously. Infinite consciousness, state 2B, which immediately realized I am God. And that is called the eternal avataric infinite consciousness. The infinite unconsciousness, state 2A, wants to unite with the infinite consciousness or Paramatma. So Paramatma is eternal avataric infinite consciousness. So the infinite unconsciousness had to start from the most fundamental form, which you can call the God particle, and then you went through the mineral kingdom, like through the periodic table, hydrogen, helium, all those elements that you read in the chemistry class. Then minerals form, like for example, this stone, this granite is a combination of different elements. This body is 70% water, H2O, hydrogen, 2 atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. So everything in the universe, whether it is minerals, plants, animals, human beings, are a combination of different elements that we have read in the periodic table. The difference is the Chaitanya, consciousness. You have to be very careful out here to understand the meaning between being conscious and consciousness. Now, English is a very ambiguous language. So, every word has multiple meanings based on the context or the background of whatever subject you're talking about. So, I always mention that one should always first explain the meaning of each word that you use. What is love? What is ego? What is consciousness? What is being conscious? We should not assume that I know the exact meaning of these words, because these words are used in the context of a spiritual discussion. So English is an ambiguous language. It is a very imperfect language compared to Sanskrit. But Baba was very practical, because this is the first time that we know of that the East and the West have come together. The Oriental East is united with the Occidental West. Baba first started his Mandali in 1921-22 with people from Pune and neighborhood. Then, till 1930-31, you remember Prema Ashram, Baba maintained silence and so on. Then 1931, Baba first went abroad to England and America. So 1931 to 1937 or 38, Baba made many visits to the foreign countries. And then we saw World War II start, where Baba went to all the mosque tours and And in 1941, Baba came to Voltaire. It's a very short line. I know it's not very elaborate. Then after World War II, Baba went into the new life, 1949 to 1952. And then 1954, he stopped using the alphabet code and he started using science. And 1958 was the last visit to a foreign land. I think he came from Australia. And after that, Baba basically did a lot of seclusion work till he dropped his body in 1969. So this is a very short version of Baba's life. Now the question is, what was he doing all this time? So today, in 2023, this is February 12th, and today is Guni Day, right? So we are all probably imagining Guni. So today, 2023, I know many people here have relatives, their children living abroad in America, in Europe, and many, not only from Andhra, but all the states in India, we know today, because India is a pioneer in information technology. So today we see many of the Indian citizens working in multinational corporations. We also see multiple inter-caste, inter-race marriages happening. So this is the first time we have observed that due to Baba's avataric presence, the world has become a global village. It has become what you call as unity in diversity. Whether you are following Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or Christianity, we know from God Speaks, Baba has shown the correlationship between Hindu Vedantism, Islam Sufism, and Christian mysticism. So it is not rocket science, but Baba also mentioned that we should read discourses and God Speaks, whether you understand the language or not, because Baba has given spiritual atom bombs of energy into each and every word. So when His grace descends on us, one will be able to understand the literature. But we also have to understand that Baba communicated most of the time in English. And today English has become the common language of communication throughout the world and in the internet. Second thing is, Baba, by using the alphabet code, today we use our smartphones, we use our iPad. So Baba basically started this whole industrial revolution 1.0, information revolution 2.0, knowledge economy 3.0, and the creative economy 4.0. So let me explain that. 5,000 to 10,000 years ago, India being a very ancient country, we had Upanishads, we had the Puranas. All of the things that we have read in God Speaks and discourses are explained in the Upanishads, etc. What Baba has done is, he has introduced the concept of divine love, pure love. And that is what is lacking today in civilization. We pretend to love people that we don't like, right? Nothing wrong, because the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, lust, greed, anger of the gross, subtle mental body, what we call it, Sthul Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, Manas Sharir. These things have come from the animal kingdom. So there is no need to feel guilty if somebody is very lustful, if somebody is very greedy, or if somebody is very angry, because these are sanskaras that has come from the organic animal kingdom, and then we have reacted to that, what Baba calls as spending sanskaras. And that is why we keep accumulating new sanskaras in the form of reincarnation. And once you have the grace of a perfect master or avatar, you slowly start unwinding sanskaras. So there are three kinds of sanskaras. One is winding sanskaras, which happens only in the evolution state. from the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom. Once you become a human being, no more winding of sanskaras. But you have an accumulation of sanskaras which needs to be spent first. And that is what happens in the initial period where you're spending sanskaras, which means reacting to sanskaras and creating fresh new sanskaras. After you come across the grace of Baba, please don't get distracted, just watch me. So, what I want to say is that all of us here, with the grace of Baba, hopefully are unwinding sanskaras, which is called intelligent action. So, my definition of unwinding sanskaras is intelligent action. I should say, all of us are being intelligent actors by not reacting to your past conditioning or sanskaras, thereby dissolving old sanskaras. This is called unwinding sanskaras. Unintelligent action is spending sanskaras, reacting to past conditioning of lust, greed and anger, thereby creating fresh new sanskaras. It is very simple. All the 8 billion people, when they wake up in the morning, they only do two kinds of action. Intelligent action, unwinding sanskaras, or unintelligent action, spending sanskaras. Now this is an intellectual concept, but if you want to experience what it means, I would suggest that you could do the 10-day silent meditation called Vipassana. Now Vipassana has come from Buddha. It is Buddha's original teaching that was preserved in Burma for 2300 years in its purest form, and it was reintroduced to India by Mr. Goenka in 1969. If you read God Speaks and if you read Discourses, the two main books, the common denominator is sanskaras, not love. In God Speaks, there is nothing about love. It is only about sanskaras. In Discourses, you have everything. God Speaks talks about who is God, what is God, and why God. Discourses tells you how. So in 1996-97, when Baba came to me through a British rock and roll musician in New York, I read Discourses God Speaks, Lord Mayor from the New York Public Library, because Discourses is the Bible, Bhagavad Gita, for 21st century living, for the art of being. I'm not saying like Ravi Shankar, art of living, art of being. Okay? So, when we are talking about who is the subject is all of us, human beings. Now look at the terminology human being. So I'm not going to be like Salman Khan and say being human and put t-shirts and start selling them. So let's see what is being human, right? Now we are defined as human being. Being means being in the present. Be here now. Now even the word present is an oxymoron, because when you say present, then you have to think of the past and the future. Past is yesterday's present, future is tomorrow's present. Past, present, future does not exist when you go into sound sleep state. So remember, when somebody says, I am suffering, that person is not suffering 24 hours a day. And the person goes to sleep, who is suffering? Nobody is. So this is a very important observation that one can make and say that if somebody says, oh, I am suffering, I'm having physical suffering, mental suffering, all kinds of suffering. But when you go to sleep, who is suffering? So I won't go into the dynamics of it, but let me give you a simple example. Today, because of medical technology, we all live very long years. Previously, we lived, let's say, 49 years. Now I say 84. Because the word number 84 is 84 lakh human lives, Baba said, and 50 crore specimens that we go through. Now the number 84, if you divide it by the 4 different stages of life, Brahmachari, Grahasti, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So first 21 years Brahmachari, 21 plus 21, 42, 42 plus 21, 63, 63 to 84 is Sannyas. Okay? Now, many of you must have read Shakespeare's Life is a Stage. Whether you have read it or not read it, please, next time when you are on the net, copy that sonnet and read it for 40 days. Because Shakespeare gave a beautiful sonnet on Life is a Stage. He divided it into 7 stages. So 84 divided by the number 7 is 12. So every 12 years, the human body goes through physiological changes, psychosomatic changes, psychological changes, the duties and responsibilities change. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84. So you have 4 main stages and 7 micro stages. So it is very scientific. The whole idea is that this is a game. So if I ever write a book, it's going to be called God Plays G to G. Today we know about P to B, B to C, C to B. So G to G means God to God. So God plays G to G. Let me explain. So the word God is an English terminology for something that we can't conceptualize unless you become God realized or self realized. So G is the word God is like an acronym. So the word G is for Godhood or godliness. Okay, Godhood or godliness. O is our and D for divinity. Godliness or Godhood, our divinity, plays G to G, game of duality to get over duality in the waking state. So, Baba has given us an option. You can take this whole creation as a play. It can be a divine sport, it can be a divine romance, it can be the greatest detective story ever told. So it's up to each one of us how you want to interpret this game. Because, as I said earlier, the avatar is the first drop soul to become God realized without the help of a perfect master. And he got designated as avatar, or in modern management terms, chairman emeritus, eternally speaking. So none of us can become avatars. But if you are destined from the home point, either you can get moksha, ordinary mukti, which everyone will get by 84 lakh human lives. The reason for having a perfect master or avatar is to reduce the number of cycles. So you have moksha, ordinary mukti, guaranteed for everybody, where you will experience bliss, anandam. Next comes nirvana, because moksha, ordinary mukti, happens after death for God-fearing people who still have samskaras. Nirvana, which is called the first stage of fana, annihilation of the mind, manonash, nirvana, will happen for a few, which means again bliss, ananda, not satchitananda. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is God realization, self realization. So Baba has said that Nirvana as goal, Nirvikalpa Samadhi the goal. So you try for 100%, but at least you will get 90, 80, 50 and you will pass. So the question is, do you want to have Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Nirvana or Moksha? Actually, the only reason is, can we get out of the cycle of samsara? There is no need to score 100% all the time. Even if you score 50%, you pass. So moksha, ordinary mukti is almost like that. But the point here I want to make is that even for human beings, all of us are either destined to have any one of these stages. So, coming back to the player actor, all of us here are actors like in a TV serial. I don't know how many people watch TV serials. Our life is a TV serial. Today I have come here, I got up from my bed, I didn't do any preparation. Due to Baba's grace, I am able to speak like this. There is no script, even though I am holding this. All of us who are here, you didn't know what was going to be spoken. So this is like a reality show, and we are all actors as soon as we get up. So the challenge here is, every 24 hours, only for 16 hours a day, we are challenged by this, what we call as the game of duality, to get over duality. So let me come back to the sleep state. In 24 hours, you sleep for 8 hours. 8 hours you worked in your professional life in the factory or in the office, punched in, punched out. And 8 hours you came to the house and spent your time with your family. Today, no more. The 8 plus 8, 16 hours is combined together and it's overlapping. Your personal family life and professional work life are overlapping. It happened during COVID, where many people had to work from home, so they had to see their spouses, they had to see the children, and there were many challenges, especially for both the, for a couple. I think it was a real test. I call it Baba's new life. The COVID 2.5 years was Baba's introduction of new life for each of us individuals to see how can we cope up in a crisis like this. Are we able to use his messages in this kind of a challenging environment? That is just an example. So coming back to 84 years, it is equivalent to 30,000 days. If you sleep for 8 hours, for 84 years, 8 hours is 10,000 days, which is 28 years. So imagine if you are living till 84 years, you have only 20,000 days. So what I want to conclude out here is that Mayor Baba has come here and given us a very practical solution to life. And the last thing I want to say is that in this avataric age, in the global village, Baba has said, we have gone from the age of animal instinct to the age of analytical reasoning mind. Now it is the age of heart intuition. No more mind. The mind is here. So you don't have to think anymore. You have to only feel from your heart, and you have to connect with your surroundings, whether it's in the animate or inanimate world, following the 7 awakenings. 7 realities: how to love God, Hafiz sayings, 12 ways of realizing me, the 7 Sahaba sayings, the Parvartikar prayers, and all those things. So that is your checklist to see how well you behave and how you connect with Baba. Avatar Meher Baba.